Today, it's all about those looks. Welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for another installment of Project Turbo Z32. That's our 1990 Nissan 300ZX Twin Turbo. Today, guys, we're focused completely on cosmetic stuff. We have a lot of blemishes, a lot of concerns, a lot of things we can clean up with the exterior of our Z. And hopefully, if you guys have some of these blemishes, which are pretty common on cars that have some mileage, you can pull something from this video. And I hope it can help some people out, take care of some cosmetic things without spending a lot of cash, because that stuff can get pricey. So hopefully you get something from this. But since this is a long one, let's go ahead and get in the garage and get a little superficial. Restoring the exterior of our Nissan 300ZX Twin Turbo is going to be no small feat. Obviously the wheels went a long way to help, but the paint, it's good. I think I can polish, bring it back. However, really faded on the spoiler. Well, not super faded, but definitely faded versus the rest of the body. Going to address that. A big issue here is the black, supposed to be black, shiny paint up here where you'd have the Nissan and then the Twin Turbo badge down there. Has completely just, I don't even know how this happens, just completely gone. It's like almost like a felt feeling material at this point. So we need to go ahead and sand that back down and put some gloss paint clear before we can put those decals back on. It should match these awesome lights in the rear. Same with the bumper, pretty faded, gonna address that. But overall, the trim needs to be done now. It's not just straightforward. We can't just do flat black like we would on a normal car or satin black. The Z actually has some different colors on the front, kind of where the windshield wiper area is. That little grill should be a gunmetal type color. You can kind of see that, but it's super faded. Same with the mirror area. That is not supposed to be black. It's supposed to be like a dark gunmetal. Same with the window trim, which you can see is failing, needs to be touched up. Up here, the trim is the worst around the windshield, but we cannot simply paint that. We're gonna have to sand all that old material off, because if we paint over that, that's gonna flake off still, and there's no use in painting it. Same with the T-tops. You can see up here, we have to peel all that black material that's still on there, get it sanded down really nice. Do the wiper blade, of course, the wiper arm there. But coming around, mirrors, we'll try to polish those back. But in the front, there's a lot too. We've got some cracking down there, not too uncommon on these since they are pretty low front ends. So I'm gonna try to use a plastic welder, get that to stick together as best I can. And we are talking about respray down here to make it look nice. But you can also notice up here, around the lights, there should be a gunmetal kind of lipstick section there. And someone has painted this bumper at one point in its history and gone ahead and just made it all red. And it doesn't look bad all red, but I wanna make it look normal. Make it look as it rolled out of the factory. So we're gonna get some gunmetal paint, tape that off, and try to do the best job we can to make that look like it should from the factory. I think it'll add a lot. And there's supposed to be a Nissan decal right there, just off center. So we'll do all that. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of rock chips, pretty common on these. That's gonna be kind of tough to fill and paint without making the car look weird. So we'll see about that, but mostly this trim is gonna take a lot of time. That front section, and obviously reworking the rear end too. It's just getting that area where the badges are. So we got a lot to do back here, guys, on the whole car actually. So it's gonna be a lot to bring her back to how she should look, but I think it's gonna be ultimately worth it in the end. I think our first step will be doing those small areas like the badge area, and then doing the trim, and then we'll work on bringing the paint back as a whole. Let's get it done. When I say prep takes a long time, I mean it. But you want to make sure you don't have any mistakes, especially when you're painting something like this. So we've got that whole black section completely taped off. We've got extra plastic just in case there's overspray, but we got it pretty good, and we'll go in there and first off sand that down. The other reason you want to tape before you sand, it can be a bit of a nuisance and you might have to touch up some of your paint, but you don't want to damage the paint that's good around the area you're painting. And you can see it's too rough. If you were to simply paint over this, you'd be in for a not good looking paint job. You can see all the cracks, all the texture there, not gonna work. So we gotta sand all that down, get it butter smooth, and then we'll throw down some really good paint primer and a really good clear to make it shine. Speaking of grindy prep work, having to peel back with a razor blade all of this trim that's failing on the front here is completely annoying. So we have to get it off of there. If you leave these little jagged edges here, you'll see it through the paint when you repaint, and this can flake up pretty easily, and that will ruin your paint job. So you gotta take it down. Not only that, it's really shiny chrome underneath, so we're gonna have to go ahead and hit all of that with sandpaper after. Not to mention all the prepping so we can spray paint that. Yep, it's all about that prep work. And this is just some of the masking you need to do the trim on the 300ZX. As you can see, the really bad spots I've sanded up and roughed up to clear off that old material and to help the paint adhere. You can see down the side here, this is all sanded up. Same with this running up the windshield, all the way over. This needs to all be painted. So we got a lot of work to do, but a lot of work going into prepping this car. Just to show you some of the pain and suffering to make this stuff look good again. And I think it's gonna look awesome. These little things add so much to the overall image of a car. So prep work is everything, and get that primer on there. Any surface you plan to paint. So I got pretty aggressive with some isopropyl alcohol and got that black, I don't even know what it was, appeared to be some kind of adhesive off. So now I can put a good base primer down, then some paint and some clear to get this looking glossy black. But yeah, really weird stuff. Don't know what the situation was there, but it's pretty flat now, sanded well. Feels pretty smooth to the touch. I'm gonna let that alcohol prep dry, and then we'll go ahead and put some primer down on it. After getting everything sanded down, the primer has been applied and is now dry, ready for some paint to go on. Time to clear up our rear black strip there. Make it look nice and shiny. I use a high quality 2K clear. When you're using a product like this, make sure you're wearing eye protection, obviously gloves, and a respirator. You don't want to breathe this stuff in. Make sure you're well ventilated, open up your garage door, all your windows, that kind of stuff. Let's go ahead and make this shine. Nice and easy. We'll keep going and put a bunch of coats on this so it's nice and glossy. Also gone ahead and primered this rear wiper blade. These get weathered pretty bad, so primer and then some satin black paint to really freshen her up. Nothing will be spared for my trim restoration process. Nothing. On the front bumper, we got a lot to take care of. As you can see, this is an original turbo bumper. I can replace the bumper skin, but I don't like to do that because the aftermarket ones, in my opinion, never look perfect, never fit correctly, and I can patch this one up. It's not actually that bad. We do have some cracks from impact, pretty standard with lowered sports cars, or low from the factory sports cars anyway. So we got a crack here. All these cracks probably go underneath, yeah. So, which is actually good because we have a plastic welder we're gonna be employing for this job and getting this really gnarly one. So we'll repair that from underneath. This guy right here clearly, and right here. And as soon as I get those all plastic welded up, we're gonna repaint this bumper. Obviously we need to put that front kind of, keep calling it gunmetal lipstick in, which is gonna make it look like it should have from the factory in 1990. Obviously someone painted the bumper to make it look like a later model. The 95, 96s had that red, so we're gonna get that in there. We'll remove these lights, of course, to do that. But yeah, let's get this bumper welded back together. Then we'll worry about making it look nice. I want to give you guys a quick and dirty how this little plastic welding gun works. It's not expensive, pretty cheap. You can find them on Amazon, online, anywhere. They come with a variety of these little fasteners. These are basically fancy staples that you heat, melt into your bumper to kind of reinforce. Kind of like rebar and concrete is the idea here. So you go under, you see this crack right here. You simply affix one of those little fancy staples to the end of the plastic welding gun. You go up to your crack. You're going to pull the trigger on the gun. And that's going to heat the element. It heats really quick. Then you're going to press it in until it starts to melt into the plastic. Give it a little twist. Let go of the trigger so it starts to cool, and then pull the gun back out. It'll leave the fancy staple in there holding the plastic together. You want to do that enough to reinforce the cracks so they're all stuck together. And that's really it. Pretty awesome tool. Should get the job done. So let's cut back to hopefully a solid looking bumper. I said it was going to be pretty, but I put, what, 4 heated staples in there. You can see them right there. You can see the excess metal hanging out. We will actually go ahead and clip that with some pliers, but overall that plastic is really holding up. It's made that piece very solid. You can take it and flex it and the whole thing moves now. So Of course, you're gonna have a little bit of cosmetic stuff to clean up, but functionally, this makes your bumper a lot more stronger, a lot more secure. So definitely worth it. Let's clean up this underneath little sand, cut those pieces down. You won't even know I was in there. So let's go do that to the other more hazardous cracks in this bumper. Time to remove the turn signal and fog light on the 300ZX twin turbo. I'm gonna do this because I am painting this area behind it, and sure, I could tape everything off, but I find that to be more challenging, and you end up seeing the red behind where you fully don't get it with the tape or can blast the paint back there. So yeah, let's just remove the lights. I think it's a way better way to do it. So let's go ahead, pop them off real easy. You got 2 Phillips screws here on the turn signal, and then there's kind of 2 clips that slide in, so you're gonna pull these out and kind of angle it and pull it out. Once you get that removed, you can remove this fog light by taking off the 3 10mm nuts that are behind it. You gotta kind of reach through here through the turn signal hole and pull those out. I'll show you guys how to do that in just a second, but let's get that turn signal off first. 2 screws pulled out, you can pull the unit and slide it out. You'll see that you obviously have an electrical connector there. We can unclip that, take the unit off. Of course, we'll have to block all this off while we're painting, but pretty straightforward. We're gonna reach behind here and get those nuts off next. Don't mind the strobe effect from my flashlight in there, but you can see the nuts right here. There's gonna be 3. Just reach in there with a small little driver and undo them. 10mm, and that should pop right out. With the nuts undone, you can simply pull this unit out, or it's a little easier to kind of push it through the back there. Of course, you're gonna have the clip again to undo. Right there, that brown one. Real quick also, test your lights if your fog lights aren't working. Next, you want to do those bulbs before you reinstall it. So while you have it all apart, might as well check that. There we go, we've got the fog lights and turn signals removed on both sides. It's time to get everything taped off, blocked off back here, taping off the other paint on the bumper. I'm probably gonna spray the whole front bumper anyway eventually, but first we're gonna do this little strip here I keep calling let's call it the goth lipstick strip there, because it's gonna be dark gunmetal like the rest of the trim is in the car. So we'll make sure to tape all this off as perfect as we can around the front here, and we're gonna make it look like it did from the factory because we have the OEM decal to go right there. This is gonna pop. I love the way it looks like that. All right, we've smoothed out our, gonna continue calling it Gothic lipstick section of the 300ZX. As you can see, all those chips and high spots have been reduced. That's all gonna get that beautiful gunmetal paint on it. So now it's time to alcohol prep, tape everything off to make sure we're good. And then we'll spray that primer on there, let that tack up, dry up real nice, and then we'll put some good paint on there. We'll get that primer on there nice and thick before we even think about putting paint on it. Let's go. It's time to throw our paint down, our first coat of paint after this primer has fully dried. This is coming out pretty decent, guys. I'm gonna put another coat on there, but man, this is actually looking really good. Our shiny strip over the rear tail lights is looking really good now. I'm gonna let it dry up, cure up a little longer, and then we'll put those badges on. Did this rear wiper in satin black. It looks fantastic. This other trim came out really good too. We need to clean up a little overspray, but overall you can see her on the mirror looking real good. And then in the front here, oh yeah, we got our little lipstick gunmetal thing going on here. Obviously we'll put the lights back in, I'll make it pop just a little more, but man, that's looking good, right? Time to bring this faded rear bumper back to life. The plan is to approach it with the Meguiar's Ultimate Compound, one of my favorite compounds. I'm also gonna pair that with the DA polisher attached to my drill, the Meguiar's DA polisher. This thing tends to work pretty dang good. If you have another polisher, definitely use that. And if you have to do this by hand, also do that. A lot of these products do work by hand, you just need to put more elbow grease in. But let's get it done, let's try this out and see if we can do something with this kind of faded bumper. After that one pass, you're gonna wanna grab yourself a clean microfiber. You're gonna get a little paint that is normal when you have faded oxidized paint. So don't panic when you see that. And remember, we're still gonna use a polish after, but look at this, guys. That is just one pass. Look at that. Get out of here. I love the magic of this kind of stuff when you're trying to bring old stuff back. So that compound did a real good job. Next thing we're gonna follow up with is some Meguiar's Ultimate Polish, another good product. That'll help with the shine. the polish will really clean up what the compound did and really add a lot more sheen to it. So let's go ahead and get this going. You're gonna use a softer pad too. The yellow pad's recommended for the polish. That looks absolutely stunning compared to how it looks. Super happy that I was able to bring this bumper back to life. It is nice and shiny now. I'm very happy with it, matching the rest of the car. Unfortunately, this lower section here, the textured part, has quite a bit of paint flaking off. You can see the white dots as you get in there, and there's no way to kind of polish that back. So what we'll need to do in this case is probably respray the lower section. So at least we have a good line there with the black line there, and just kind of respray all of this. But this part up here, looking pretty dang good. Even more faded than that rear bumper is this rear spoiler, which is iconic, looks so good on the vehicle. But we're gonna have to bring that back just like we did with the bumper to really make it look nice. So let's go ahead. I'll spare you the film of it, but I'm gonna hit it with the DA polisher. We're gonna do compound and polish. And again, we'll wax the car once everything's done, but let's see what we can do. All right, spoiler is compounded and polished. It didn't get to the same sheen level. Wax is gonna help obviously a little more as the bumper. It looks like this might have been repainted at one time and obviously subject to the most amount of sunlight, but it looks a lot better than being faded out and pink. Just got the whole rest of the car to do. Yay. We've allowed our primer to dry up real nice on the bumper here, or the lower portion of the bumper. We're gonna go ahead and apply the OEM paint at this time. Again, no rush here, guys. We don't want any runs, we don't want anything like that. It is a textured surface, so you wanna use a bunch of different approaches. You don't want to just sheet at one angle across because this is pretty textured. Probably going to do about 3 good coats on there, let it totally dry, and then we'll hit it with clear. But yeah, looks like a really good match already. All right, with our red color match paint looking real good on the lower part of the bumper, it's time to get that clear going. Let's put a nice thick coat of clear on. I'm going to do about probably 4 coats or so to make it really shiny. The condition of this windshield wiper cowl is just not gonna work for me. You can see the paint's pretty faded, chipped off in quite a few areas down here. So what we need to do, sand this off, prep it all up, primer and paint, and make it shine again. And after we do that, I think we can touch up these wiper arms too that have a few chips, kind of make them look fresh like we did for the rear wiper. So, hey, another project. I think it's gonna be easier to do this job with the hood up, so let's just keep it like it is. As you can see, are a faded pink color, just like the rear bumper was. We're gonna try to use a compound polish to bring it back. Obviously there's some chips here, some paint scrapes. We'll have to touch that up with some paint and maybe clear coat over everything, but let's see if we can at least bring this back a little bit. Okay, that came out pretty ridiculous. So nice and shiny now on this mirror. All it took was some compound and polish. Of course, we're gonna put wax on all of the surface of the car when everything's done here, but I'm gonna touch up this lower section of the side here, kind of the rocker panel area. You can see here lots of rock chips over time, make that kind of white. Back here, exiting and entering the vehicle, dragging your feet will produce those scrapes there, which are pretty unsightly when you come out and see it. We'll get that all cleaned up. Same with the front, but biggest concern obviously right here, ingress and egress of the vehicle. That paint's all scraped off and you got the rock chips back here. So we'll clean this up like we did with the rear, which looks absolutely fantastic. So let's make it look nice again. We have our driver's side primer on. About time to put down probably 2 to 3 solid coats of red paint. Let that fully dry up before we put clear after that. But it is time for paint. Primer's looking good. Let's get that fresh paint on there. All right, paint's looking really good here on this lower part of the door, kind of around the whole rocker panel area, looking real good. Time to throw some clear on this and really make it pop. Here's that rocker panel area all nicely painted. Matches the paint perfectly. That's why I say go with a reputable aftermarket paint company. They're the ones that are gonna match it up. If you go cheap, it's not gonna be a good match, but it looks fantastic. Like same level of sheen. I still need to buff and polish the actual door itself. So much buffing and polishing. This is taking a while, but man, it's coming out pretty good though. Car is looking pretty shiny. This massive hood. All right, let's keep it going.